You know, when we talk about the AI revolution, we always hear about the big brains, right? The powerful processors that do all the thinking. But what's feeding those brains? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a company that has quietly become the absolute kingpin of AI memory, a component so vital that without it, the whole AI supercycle just stops.
So let me ask you this. What's the real hidden engine that's powering all of this? We know about the GPUs, of course, but what's the secret sauce? What's the one thing that lets these massive AI models run at unbelievable speeds?
And the answer is right here. It's called high bandwidth memory, or HBM. Now, this is not your normal computer memory, not even close. Think of it more like a giant 12-lane superhighway built right onto the processor, feeding it data at insane speeds. It is absolutely essential, and it's at the heart of one of the most incredible company stories happening right now.
And that brings us to Micron. This is a company that has gone through what the source analysis we're looking at calls a violent transformation. I mean, what a phrase, right? It perfectly captures their shift from just another player to an absolute giant in this space.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the wild financial transformation that turned Micron into the AI memory kingpin. Then, we'll dig into the strategic supply choke point that gives them this incredible edge. After that, we'll explore some future scenarios. And finally, we'll tie it all together to see what it means for the future of AI itself. So let's dive right into the numbers, because honestly, they tell a pretty staggering story. This isn't just a company that's doing well, it's a company that has been completely remade from the ground up by this AI demand. Let's just start with this number, 196%. Yeah, you heard that right. That's their year-over-year revenue growth. For a massive hardware company, that's not just growth, that's an explosion. And it's almost all thanks to the world's desperate need for their high-end memory. But here's where it gets really nuts. It's not just about selling more, it's about how much money they make on each sale. Just look at this margin expansion. Over the last 10 quarters, they've gone from a gross margin of under 10% to nearly 75%. That means they went from making less than a dime on the dollar to almost 75 cents. That's just a tectonic shift. And this isn't some one-time fluke. We're talking about a pattern. 12 straight quarters of beating what everyone on Wall Street thought they could do. And they aren't just squeaking by, they're smashing those estimates by an average of almost 40%. It shows you that the experts have been consistently underestimating just how big this change really is. Okay, now let's put it all in context. Stacked up against their peers, Micron's revenue growth is in a totally different universe. And get this, its PE ratio, which is kind of like a price tag for the stock based on its earnings, is actually lower than the average, which might suggest it's still a bargain. But the real showstopper is return on invested capital. It's basically how good they are at turning $1 into more dollars, and they are over 10 times more efficient than their competitors. They are simply playing a different game. So you've got to be asking, how is this even possible? And more importantly, is it going to last? Well, the answer lies in their massive strategic advantage, what this analysis calls the HBM supply choke point.
And just so we're all on the same page, again, HBM is not the normal RAM you have in your PC. It's a super complex, 3D stacked marvel of engineering. It's that data superhighway we talked about, and it's the only thing that can feed AI processors the massive amounts of information they need fast enough.
Now listen to this, because this is the key to everything. Micron is one of only 3 companies on the entire planet that can make the latest, greatest version of this memory. The manufacturing process is so ridiculously hard that supply is always going to be tight. And the result? Demand is so off the charts that their HBM capacity is apparently sold out completely through 2025. This gives them unbelievable pricing power. And that demand isn't just growing, it's going vertical. All you have to do is look at NVIDIA's next-gen Blackwell chips. Each one needs 8 times more high-bandwidth memory than the previous generation. That's not a small step up, that's an exponential leap.
So with a grip on the market like that, where does Micron go from here? Let's take a look at a few different ways this whole AI supercycle could play out for them, based on the source analysis.
So, the analysis basically maps out 3 potential futures. The most likely, with a 50% probability, is the base case, where things just continue on this really strong path. Then there's a 30% chance for a bull case, where things get even more explosive. And, there's always a bear case, with a 20% chance, where maybe demand cools off or competition somehow catches up. And those scenarios come with some pretty eye-popping potential price targets from this analysis. A base case of $440,
and a bull case that hits $550. Even their worst-case scenario is way up there at $250. It just really shows you the scale of the potential upside that analysts are seeing here.
Okay, so let's zoom out. We've talked about the tech, the numbers, the company, but what does this story really tell us about the entire AI revolution?
Well, I think the fundamental takeaway is this. AI isn't just magic software running in the cloud. It's built on a physical foundation of incredibly sophisticated hardware. And as these AI models get smarter and more powerful, their thirst for this specialized high-performance memory is only going to get more and more intense.
And that means that the companies who have mastered this insane complexity, companies like Micron who now control a critical bottleneck in the supply chain, while they are in a prime position to capture a massive amount of the value being created in this whole new AI economy.
And it all leaves us with one final, fascinating question to think about. As AI continues to grow like crazy, who's going to capture the most value in the long run? Is it the architects designing the AI models, or is it the suppliers who provide the essential, irreplaceable picks and shovels for this digital gold rush? And that's our deep dive for today. The analysis and all the visuals you saw came from ffinstill.com. Thanks for tuning in.